What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Masters of Life podcast. Our guest today is Benjamin Kepner, CEO of Global Social Media Marketing, GSMM, has a decade of experience growing millions in global sales with technology, partnership marketing, social media marketing, and Spanish for 100 brands and 100 events in 40 industries. He is a multilingual marketer in English, Mandarin, Chinese, and Spanish, and is focused on collaborating with globally minded entrepreneurs and innovative schools to achieve social media marketing, education technology training, and international business expansion goals. As a former English teacher with the Ministry of Education in Spain, he was accepted as one of 5,000 Google for Education certified trainers worldwide to transform education globally. Finally, he is one of only 100 global Hootsuite ambassadors, the event manager for Network After Work in Denver, an Amazon influencer, and co-authored the Amazon ebook, How to Become a YouTuber, a channel growth guide, in 2020, after creating 200 YouTube social media marketing training videos to date. Benjamin will be sharing his advice, his stories, and his habits on today's show. Benjamin, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. But let's kick it off with an interesting fact about your background that has shaped who you are.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, and I thought that the one interesting fact would be to communicate that I am actually fluent in Spanish, and I was able to reach that level of fluency after living in Spain for a year.
So is it common for people to learn a language in 1 year, or was that?
Yeah, no, it was definitely not in that 1 year. I've been studying Spanish since I was 10, but I think just kind of as a cool story for most people that are learning languages, that I think in the US, you get structured in the classroom setting and you're learning, but you're not in the day-to-day survival mode of living in another country. And so that would be the interesting fact I would say is, I studied Spanish for roughly about 14 to 16 years, but I really felt like I got fluent after all that studying when I actually lived abroad in Spain.
What's interesting about learning languages is those different programs and platforms that teach you different languages. They don't teach you how to really conversate in the real world in terms of slang, in terms of maybe it's not used to say the certain way. And I've realized that because I speak Tagalog and Filipino, and it's just one of those things where it's better to conversate all the time and day to day, and you learn different things than actually like textbook wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So I want to get into a little bit about who you are and why are you into this social media marketing? Why did you feel that that's where you needed to be?
Yeah, so I think why I needed to be in social media marketing was kind of like as soon as I graduated college is the short answer. Like I graduated in college in 2011. Social media obviously was created like right around when I was in high school. So I'm of that millennial generation where we didn't have social media when I was a teenager, which is crazy to think because I feel like teenagers are very avid users of social media today, but saw social media kind of in high school. And then it was really kind of a personal thing at that stage way back when. And then when I graduated, there were a number of social media jobs that were getting posted. And the funny thing was, is a lot of VP of marketings, marketing directors, even business owners who had tons of marketing experience had no background in social media. So early on, straight out of college, I wasn't able to maybe get a marketing manager role, but I was able to get a social media manager role because my background at school was international business and marketing, and I was trying to get in the marketing career. And so really for me to get to the level I am today, it all started in the social media space because that was a new job that didn't even exist 10 years ago, which is crazy to think.
And it's so cool how you kind of got there on ground zero. You were there at the beginning when people needed the job, and maybe at that time they didn't care who was super qualified.
Right.
Yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so
pretty much it was like, hey, Benjamin, you're a millennial and you've grown up with social media, so you have the credentials at that stage in 2011.
That must be nice.
Yeah. That's not the case anymore for sure, but back then, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And what, 2011? I don't know, when was Instagram bought by Facebook?
I think it was 2013 that Facebook bought Instagram, if I'm correct.
Okay, yeah. So again, how cool is it that you were able to get in ground zero when your resume said, "Oh, hey, you were born this year," and you got kind of lucky to end up being part of our team. So when did you actually start global social media marketing?
Yeah, so the funny story there is I started my own blog in college, and it was another brand at that time. It was like me getting into digital marketing and personal branding, and it was called BK Strategic. Probably the worst name I could have come up with, but I thought I was a strategic, 22-year-old marketer at that stage, I guess. And the name evolved when I was in Spain. My father was thinking about like what I was doing and where I was going, and he was like, "We have an international business degree, and you do marketing." So we were playing back and forth, and all the names were taken. And then he was just like, "Well, aren't you just doing everything really in social media? Shouldn't the name be in that?" And then I was like, "Yeah." And he was like,
Mm,
"Well, you're living in Spain and doing social media in Spain now, right?" And he's like, "All right, well, why don't you just call it Global Social Media Marketing?" And then that was how the name got created,
mm,
was through my dad in a funny phone call conversation. And then it actually became a legitimate business. So the website's been around for 11 years. I've written about 500 articles to date on social media, and
wow.
the business itself came out of really survival. I moved to Colorado in 2017 after being in the social media space and a number of like freelancer projects and different full time opportunities that just weren't the right fit. And I got a number of freelance jobs. And then at the end of the year, my accountant went to me and said, "Benjamin, you've got like 4 freelance clients here. Why don't you just create an LLC and you're going to save yourself on taxes?" And that was really
Mm.
the only inspiration I needed, and the rest is history. And that's where I'm at today.
Oh wow, that's absolutely amazing. So I want to take a step back because a lot of people who are listening to this podcast might not know that social media marketing is an entire business, right?
Mhm.
So I want you to explain briefly to our audience that this could be a whole business. That you did you ever feel that you were limiting yourself by narrowing to just social
Mhm.
media marketing? I mean, you had international business, you had marketing, you could do so many other avenues. So where are you at with the social media marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think a lot of people that go to our company, globalsocialmediamarketing.com, and they look at what we do offer other services, to your point, outside of social media. So things like digital marketing and Google Ads and chatbots and all that jazz. I mean, there's a lot in digital marketing. But I think that if you talk to a lot of business owners, they'll say that sometimes they try to do too much and then they kind of stretch themselves thin. And what that really makes it hard for a business owner is to scale. If I can kind of focus in on a niche, even within social media, right? There are over 200 social media networks out there, and that's like crazy to
Is it
think.
really?
Yeah, that there's even that many. Each
Wow.
country in the world has their own different ones that might not even be really, talked about in the U.S. And so, I
Mm,
think when you think about that question, it's like social media was a good niche within marketing for me because it was trending upwards. There was high demand. There was being more marketing budgets that were getting taken away from those other traditional channels back then, right? TV, newspaper, radio, all of that budget was going to social media. So I like to think that I was kind of thinking ahead of like, hey, social media is growing year over year, and this is going to be something that's going to be really big long term. And I was kind of one of the early guys too, where I was battling with business owners saying, like, "Benjamin, what's the value of a post or a like and all that
mm,
stuff?" It's like a business owner doesn't care if you get 1,000 likes on your page if it doesn't lead to any sales or revenue for the company. And so I also kind of saw that evolution, and I think that was the hurdle for somebody like me starting in the game when you didn't really have lead generation or e-commerce and all that stuff. And now it's not really a question of me trying to sell social media to a business owner. Every business owner is saying, "I need to have social media and this could grow my business." So that was kind of the
mm.
growth of that whole story.
Nice, nice. Okay. So, what habit or skill has made you different than the rest?
Yeah, I would just say persistence would be a really good type of adjective or skill to just have for anything you do in life. I think persistence in my sales, persistence in becoming one of the best social media marketers out there, and just being persistent to continually get better every day.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially in the field that you're in, because a lot of us always get pitched from social media marketers. Oh, we can
Right.
do this, we can do this. And so the question now is, with all that noise, how do you differentiate your company versus a freelancer who just comes up to me and says, "Hey, do you need social media marketing help?"
Right. Yeah, and honestly, like, the way I get that question a lot too, costs and things like that, I can go to a major corporation and say, your average entry level social media manager is going to cost you at least $55,000 probably, and you're going to have to pay them benefits and all that jazz. Or you could hire us and pay half of the cost, because I'm only going to charge you about $1,500 to $2,000 a month per channel. And when you do that, you're also going to get an entire team. So that kind of handles that issue. Now, if I run into the freelancer issue, it's like, oh, Benjamin, I know this freelancer. They do pretty good work. Well, then I'll challenge them again and I'll say, how many years of experience does your freelancer have doing social media? I've been doing this since 2011. I mean, I have 10. I mean, how many people do you know in 2020 today that have 10 years of social media experience for business, right?
Right.
Like pretty much almost nobody, unless like they were an early adopter like me. And then I think the other thing with a freelancer, to that point again with the team, is like you could hire a freelancer, be very lean, entrepreneur, cost effective, but that person only has so many hours. And guess what? That freelancer is probably also freelancing with other brands or whatever. So working with my company is an advantage, because you're actually getting a team of experts of 10 different people. I'm working in multiple industries, and we also have access to social media technology tools and partnerships that other freelancers won't.
Oh my gosh. All right. There you go. So now everybody needs to listen to Benjamin here, because now we're talking about a scalable business, right? So we talk, instead of freelancing, instead of something on Fiverr, for example, now we're talking about a whole team that can monitor and tailor your business to its specific needs, versus somebody who's, I don't want to say it, but really poaching for business, looking for business. And so I like how the leverage that you have there. So what was the most successful failure that you've had?
Yeah, so that story of, creating my company actually I think is the best failure. I moved to Colorado in 2017 mainly because I just wanted to move to Colorado. I thought Colorado was a really cool place. It was a good place to be for tech. A lot of tech was moving to Denver. I was reading about the quality of life and all of that stuff, and moved there. I took a food science job. I was doing sales. I was traveling and all that great. I actually created all their social media kind of strategy that year. And then they let me go, nothing to do with me, but because they lost another important person in the company, and I was an entry level person. So I was the first person to get cut. And it really, it was kind of like, taking a hit and getting knocked out as a boxer almost. Like I was on the ground and I was like, living in another state that I just moved to, I have to be able to pay for rent and all that stuff. And so that really made me hungry to go out and find freelancer work. And I interviewed for hundreds of jobs, if you can believe that, after, and still didn't get a full-time job. But then when I met with my accountant, he was like, you've got all the makings of the business here. So really, I think the greatest failure in my career to date was getting fired by that Colorado company so that I could have the opportunity to go out and find freelance gigs, and then eventually realize, wow, I can actually make more money and even do better, probably work for my life if I go start my own company.
Wow. Okay. So I have to ask you, during that food science job, was there any sense of, okay, I'm looking for more, I do eventually want to leave? Or did that firing really say, or wake you up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I had some pretty intense conversations with them, like even before I was let go, about like, hey, I'm entry level. I'm making $45,000 a year in Colorado. Like it's barely for me to even be able to afford to live here. And it was like, I want to become a sales director. I want to be able to be an executive within a company. And it was only a 10-person company. So it wasn't like I was climbing a corporate ladder. I just wanted to get to a point where I had kind of a more of a leadership position and I could make more money. And I wasn't really the guy that was closing the sales. I was a sales manager where I was building the pipeline, building relationships, doing a lot of lead generation, nurturing. But when the contracts were being signed, I was nowhere on there. Whereas as soon as I got out of that role, all the freelancer contracts I was closing. And then my company today, I close every single contract that we have now. So it's like, I think I already had communicated it to that company, but then them letting me go was it just like made it concrete of like, hey, I really need an opportunity that can help me grow. And if you start your own business, you can go as far as you want.
Mm-hmm. Oh my, yeah. And that's great advice. And sometimes I was just talking to a guest this morning, and sometimes you just need that kick in the butt that you weren't willing to do, to realize that I was meant for more anyway.
Right.
And you had this idea that there was no corporate ladder, so there was a cap and you couldn't achieve what you were trying to achieve. It was more of a stepping stone at that stage.
Hmm.
But then they said, okay, we're going to take away all your stepping stones, so now you had to figure out how to build your own way across the river, right?
Right.
So what lesson took you the longest to learn?
I think the longest lesson is to realize that some relationships you have to let go. Not every relationship is meant to
Mm.
last. I think I learned that the hardest romantically with my only one girlfriend at 32. I've only had one
Oh, no.
girlfriend, but I've also learned that in business. That food science job. Again, I have no issues with that company or anything. Like I've moved on, but I also realized I need to just let that go. That wasn't the
Mhm.
right fit. They weren't helping me go to where I wanted to be, and they weren't really after that stage going to help me. So I think some people say don't burn bridges, and I agree to that to a certain extent, but I would also say some relationships are meant for that moment in time. And once the relationship goes bad, sometimes maybe it's even better to let go so that you can grow better as a person.
Wow. Okay. So obviously that applied to the relationship as well.
Sure.
So I do have to ask first, how long were you guys together?
Yeah, I have only had a girlfriend for 2 years, so that wasn't too long.
Oh, okay, okay. But when you were talking about the lesson that took you the longest to learn, you said that it's about letting go when it's time. So during that relationship, did you ever feel that, okay, maybe now's the time, but maybe not? Now's not the time, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with my like girlfriend relationship, it was kind of like we were together for 2 years, but then I was still talking to her, every year we'd see each other, and you kind of get the feelings again. You like maybe think,
Mhm.
can I repair the relationship and things like that. And I've kind of found that, whether it's business or romantic, once a relationship ends, the longer that relationship has been ended, the harder it is to try to repair that relationship. So sometimes, yeah, people can come back into your life, and things can be okay. And I actually still do talk to that girlfriend. I've seen her, but it's something where like mentally, I'm not thinking like, hey, I'm going to try to go back and repair this. I need to let go and maybe go find somebody that is going to be the right fit for me.
Nice. Okay. Is there a book or influential figure that you recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, so I've been really just consuming as much content as I can from Tom Breeze this year. Tom Breeze is running the world's largest YouTube advertising agency. He is spending millions of dollars on YouTube every day, and he wrote a book this year called Visibility. So I'm going to give a shout out to him as an influencer guy that I've been paying a lot of attention to.
Nice. Okay. Talk a little bit about visibility. Or he hasn't released yet?
Yeah, it's a new book, so I have not read the
Yeah.
book, but it is a book that he's released. And so, more about Tom Breeze. He started, funny enough, in Google Ads and was very successful in that. And then he was just an early adopter of YouTube. He realized, like, wait a second, I can take all my successes on Google and now kind of put this into a creative format. And he really created some frameworks and things that he was just ahead of his time now. And now a lot of these people are paying him for his course that he's created, and he wrote a book, and he's keynote speaking at major conferences on YouTube. So I really think, there's a lot of great YouTubers out there, but for me personally, I think that he is one of the best.
Nice. Okay, so before I forget, because I think it's really important that we talk about as social media, there's 200 plus. I want to know do you think is the most valuable and if it's dependent on different businesses?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You were asking me all the potential client questions that I'm getting, right? Like, freelancer versus, hiring a team. And now you're asking me what
Mhm.
channel should I be on? So for that answer, I always go back with a question. So I'm going to ask you a question. What are the three most visited websites in the world today? Can you name them?
I would think Google.
Correct.
Um, I would think, okay, three. Okay, this is going to be a trick question. I'm going to go with Google, Facebook, and YouTube.
Nailed it. Air high five.
Oh, all three of them?
Yeah, for
Yes.
real. Yeah.
Oh, man. All right.
Yeah, so ranking order is actually Google is number one. YouTube, surprisingly, a lot of people forget about, is the number two, and number three is Facebook. So when somebody asks me that question, I just go back and I answer and tell them, hey, the three most visited in the websites are those. So why wouldn't you want to be on the biggest platforms that are
Mm.
available?
Which makes total sense, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So
And
that's where I
two of
always
those are
point.
owned by Alphabet, which is crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. And so that's my answer, right? That's where the biggest audiences are. Also, if you think about those three websites that I just mentioned, two of them are search engines, which is also very advantageous. You get the social component plus people trying to search for something to solve their problem. And then finally, I would say those three platforms are the most profitable from advertising, right? Facebook, they were one of the first people in the social media space to actually figure out, hey, we're going to make money. And guess what? Facebook probably figured that out from the other guy named Google, because Google realized when they created their search engine, hey, we really just need to have our revenue come from creating a bunch of ads from all these people that are searching on Google.
And it's actually kind of shocking to me. And it's a good thing you phrased your question as what are the three top visited sites? Because if you said top three social medias, I would have never said Google or YouTube.
Right.
That doesn't even strike me as a social media site.
Right. Yeah, and so that's why I say three most visited websites too, because another thing I think a lot of business owners will ask me is about their website, or I'll even run into the issue of like, hey, Benjamin, I want to do social media, but I've invested all this money in building a website. And then I will just briefly say, I'll say, well, unfortunately, your website probably won't even be in the top 1 million, let alone the top 3. So don't you think it's a better decision for your business to spend time developing things on the 3 most visited websites in the world instead of trying to build your own website?
Very interesting. And then I guess in turn have links if you needed to on those websites. So those 3 websites, for someone who's just starting off, is there a best bang for your buck, Facebook, Google, or YouTube?
Yeah, I would say probably Facebook is still going to be the cheapest just because of like the sheer advertising capabilities. Like their platform is very more consumer centric because you have all of that information on data, right? And some people are, going very, very focused in targeting, and other people are very broad. I think Google is always going to be the most expensive of those 3 because they were the first guys in the game. They're way ahead. They have a lot of money. People also really feel like the quality of the leads or the sales that they get from Google are much better than those other 2 because it's more search intent based, right? I'm searching to solve my problem. Google's going to give me that solution. I would say YouTube is kind of in the middle. But I think the cool thing with YouTube is there's less advertisers. So I think that your results could technically be better on YouTube than both, but you may pay a little bit more than Facebook.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, because I was starting to think that, as you were talking, Facebook has, the pixel and it's a really narrowed ad. But when you talk about Google, it's more search based. But that seems counterintuitive because now the people that you're trying to attract are specifically looking for you.
Right.
Whereas Facebook, people are going to see you even if they're not looking for you.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I never actually thought about it that way, but that makes perfect sense when you break it down that way. Like if people are searching for your product or service and advertisers want that population, Google should charge you more for that because it's a relevant audience. Whereas Facebook, to your point, I'm interrupting you scrolling a million miles an hour. And you may not even want to buy my product or service or have no interest in my product or service based on search. You're just interrupting me. So that might be a great reason why it's cheaper.
Okay. Greatest investment under $1,000?
I would say my iPhone X. And so I made payment plans so I know that it's under 1,000. The cool thing I would say to any budding, video maker, anyone that does social media, I'm running a social media company on my iPhone. I do not need a professional camera. I don't have, a crazy equipment. I do have a MacBook Pro and an iPhone X, and that alone is all I need to make professional videos, take pictures and everything. So I'd say an iPhone X was the best investment that I've made. I made some awesome videos with that.
Nice. And I actually, the new MacBook Air, I think is under $1,000 as well. And I heard is millions of light years way faster than the MacBook Pros for the past couple of years. So I did want to ask you, because you're using an iPhone X, now is your time, and I'm sure you did your research on versus Google and versus Apple. Give me the negatives of Google. Like hit them hard. Let people know that it sucks. It doesn't. I don't know.
Well, I guess I'm a Googler number one, so you're never going to hear me say that Google sucks.
That's right.
But I think, to answer your question, I think like iPhone or Apple, right? They just have such a loyal following at this stage. Like again, like it's funny to think like iPhone was another evolution of my age, right? Like I had the Nokia text phones with the green snake game, and then didn't have the
I
iPhone.
love that game.
Yeah, it was classic, man. I don't know why iPhone doesn't have that, but I didn't really have an iPhone until right before I went to college, or that was like a new thing. And so I think what Apple has done is they've created a very loyal customer fan base that now, after 5 to 10 years of using their products, there are some people like me that are just never going to change. It's almost like Google could come out with the Google Pixel and the Chromebook and all of these new hardware products that they have also evolved into. But Apple got me at a prime age, when I was young, and I've just been loyal to them. I don't know if I'll ever go back to a Google hardware product. Now, I do use all of the Google G Suite products and ads and all that stuff. I love Google. I'm probably the most googly person that you're going to talk to on this podcast. But what I would say, for Google's upheaval battle is they are having to kind of compete with that, that market. Microsoft, all of their computers and their products, have been there, but Google is making waves. I think Google is breaking into the education space a lot now. A lot of people don't realize that the way that it's trending now, there's 90 million students in the US now that use the G Suite products. And a lot of those schools have actually decided from a government at state level that they're going to have only Google products in their schools or their classrooms. So that's something that's very interesting, because all those products, guess what, are free. Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, you got to pay hundreds, $200. Google created all of those same types of variations in their own suite, and they don't cost you any money. So if you're a school, it's a no-brainer,
Right.
So I think Google and Apple, they're very interesting. Obviously, Apple is still selling more hardware products than any other consumer product out there. So I just think that when I think of those two brands, I think Apple is a great consumer product. And when I think of Google, I think of it as more of a search engine, or more of a productivity type of software technology solution.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And so basically what you're saying is for Google to stay in its lane. Okay, so what was your biggest money mistake?
Biggest money mistake? Wow, that's a good one. I think the biggest money mistake could be potentially investing in people, or investing in trainings that I thought that were going to help me that didn't help me. And you don't know that those investments are not going to work out until months later. So that's a tough question to answer. But yeah, I think I've burned some money through some people and some training things that didn't work out.
I definitely think you're not the only one, especially when it comes to stuff like social media marketing. Everybody talks a good game, but sometimes the product doesn't deliver, and you just never know what's going to deliver. Especially, it's easy to manipulate customers and the audience based on the way that you market. What is your favorite quote, and what does it mean to you?
My favorite quote is "Get busy living." And the reason for that is because my father taught me that quote when I was living in Spain, and I was going through that kind of that relationship breakup that you mentioned, and being away from family and living abroad. And he wrote me an email on it one day, and it was a really awesome email. I have it on our website, actually. And it just reminds me that every day you're alive, you can breathe, you can wake up, and you better get busy living your day because you're alive. And some people are not fortunate to have that ability. So that's my favorite quote: get busy living.
I like that. And I think it also goes on the flip side here, where get busy living could mean spending time with your family.
Right.
Just because a lot of people don't have that luxury. So even chilling on Netflix and just relaxing at home with your loved ones, I think it's get busy living too. So
yeah.
What advice do you have for someone who just got out of college?
For somebody that just got out of college, I do think that you can get your dream job. But I'm going to tell you in this podcast, don't go in with that mindset. I think a lot of people, you get the big corporations that come in and recruit on the university, and you might, there's a few people from college that are going to go get their dream job out of college. So what I would tell any, recent graduate is don't go in thinking right after college you're going to go get your dream job. You have no experience. You don't really have a skill set because all you've learned is philosophy or theory in school. You really have no business experience unless you had a really awesome internship or you worked all through college. And even at 22, to go think that you can go compete with somebody 10 years of experience with you is just not realistic. So I would say to a college kid, go into a job that you enjoy doing early on and that's going to help you grow your skill set and experience so that you can, to your point that you mentioned earlier, use it as a stepping stone to get to your dream job. Don't go in thinking right out of college you're going to get your dream job.
Okay. And I want to top on that. I want to go on top of that because I was very blessed to have my dream job when I came out of college. I really wanted to be a medical device rep.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, the money, the things that it offers. And I quickly realized after a year and a half that, oh my God, I do not want to be here. And it was one of those blessings because I could have wasted 10 years of my life on stepping stones trying to get to that place. But I was fortunate enough to get to my dream job before I even put in the work, I guess, so to speak. And so I guess my advice then would be, don't think that your dream job is your dream job because you might be unpleasantly surprised when you land that dream job.
Yeah, I agree.
So what problem are you consistently seeing in the world?
Problem specifically to elaborate, or just any problem?
Yeah, any problem that you see most people or the world is experiencing.
Yeah, I feel like right now people are, I would say, like, just as a world thing, like, are mentally struggling right now. Like, I feel like a lot of people are stressed about their work. They're very uncertain about what's going to happen with their business or their family and all these things. And I completely have been in that stage too. Like, being a business owner, I think has been really, really hard this year. But what I would say is you need to focus on what you can control and try not to stress and worry about everything else, because if your mental game isn't sharp, then it's not going to help really anything. So having a strong mental game is hopefully something I would say, like, for people in the problem of the world, is focus on trying to figure out how to not have, all these mental issues and being around people that support you and help you grow.
Who is the most exceptional person that you've met and why?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this and I was thinking, maybe I should answer with like, an entrepreneurial or someone really career, but I actually was like, you know what, I'm just going to say my mom. And my mom is the most exceptional person that I've met because of her heart. She's a very kind woman. I feel like she's very giving, and it's just like that unconditional love. I know a lot of mothers are like that, but I just feel like outside of just her relationships with me, she's just always giving. And so, to find people like that in life are really people that you should try to hold on to.
And, I created this question to ask about, entrepreneurial things like that, but you're not the first to go towards a personal person, and especially mom, dad, sibling, aunt, uncle. More times than not, people are choosing that as their most exceptional person. So don't worry about it. What questions should I be asking you? What aren't people thinking of, and what wisdom can you shed on it?
Yeah, so I think you briefly asked about it, but I was going to just say, like, why is YouTube the number one social media platform that you should be using today of all the platforms? And I think, I'm not saying that I'm correct, right? Everyone has their own opinion, but I'm a data nerd. And I can tell you from what I'm doing with all of my clients and all of the industries that I'm working in that our best results are coming from YouTube. So that would be the question that I would have you be trying to ask me in this. If somebody's like, where do I be or what do I do in social media? You should be asking me those hard questions about why YouTube is the best option.
Okay. So before we do that, before we move on to the next question, I have to ask, because how does that even work? For example, me as a podcaster, if I went to you, hey, I want to start doing ads on YouTube, how do you do that? Do you find videos that promote podcasters? I just explain that to me.
Yeah. So let's use an example for a podcaster. So what I do with any new client, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's called a Google Keyword Planner analysis. This is a tool that Google has built in the Google Ads platform to essentially give you public information transparently about what are people searching related to your product or service. So if you're a podcaster, you might have people that are looking for specific podcast topics or niches in the industry or a specific person. So I would go in, you would give me your specific, podcasting topics or what you think people would be searching for on Google or YouTube to find your product or service. I'm going to plug that into the Google Keyword Planner analysis. And what it's going to give me back is it's going to say, hey, Benjamin, for example, it's a podcast about, entrepreneurship podcast. Let's use that as an example. It's going to tell me X amount of people are searching for this keyword per month. It's going to tell me how much it's going to cost me per click to be at the top of search results. And number 3, it's going to tell me if it's medium, low, or high competition. Meaning, if it's high competition means that there's a lot of advertisers paying for it. Why? Because that keyword is actually leading to sales, leads, transactions, revenue for the business. Where if it's a low keyword, it might be something that people are just searching, they're researching something, but they're not really in the buying phase or to make a decision. So that would be the first thing is I'm going to take the business owner or the new client's YouTube account, ask them, how do I describe your product or service? I'm going to go put it in the Google Keyword Planner. It's going to spit back the results. I'm going to analyze the data and then come back to you with my manual kind of process of saying, this is the keywords that you should target for your YouTube ads. Now, a lot of people don't do with their YouTube ads is they go look at their competitors' videos or they go create a video without having done any of that research. And then when I go and I tell them, I said, well, this is great. I'm glad that you looked at your competitors. I'm really happy that you know how to, explain your product or service. But did you actually look at what people are searching for? Did you actually use the language that your customers have to find what you are offering? If you haven't, then really that video that you created has no value because that's not what people are searching for.
Yeah, right.
So,
oh my gosh.
Okay. Yeah. So you take that keyword analysis and now you've got that golden list of 10 to 15 keywords. Once you have that list, now you write a video script. You write a video script so that you save yourself time in the production and the editing process. If you have a nice script, I can write a script for anybody in about an hour. I'm going to take those keywords that I got, I'm going to bucket them into the script, and then I'm going to write the script with the business owner in an hour. Now they've got a professional script. They've got a plan. They know what shots they need to have. They have an understanding of what the video is going to look like. They're not just going in improv, right? They've actually got a plan and a framework, and they can practice it if they want or whatever. And then after that, we're going to shoot it. Shooting, I just told you, it doesn't have to be complex. I've had people send me stuff from their phone this week. I've had people send me stuff from Zoom calls like this. You don't have to go crazy. You just have to get something that feels authentic and real. And then they'll send me that content. If they want us to travel, we can do that. But especially this year, it's just kind of like send me something and then we'll edit it. We bring it into our in-house YouTube department. We edit it. We make it look professional. Now you've got a video that has been created based upon a keyword research with a framework script and some authentic content. And now we've got an awesome ad for you. And now we're just creating the campaigns and now we're running those campaigns. If you're asking me what campaign should you run, I would generally recommend that you run 2 types of ads. One would be an in-stream ad, which are the videos that you see on YouTube when you click on a video and you see the ad at the front or in the middle of the video at the end. That's what's called an in-stream ad. Or I would recommend a discovery ad, which is when you search YouTube, you'll see at the top of search results at YouTube, there's some paid ads. Just like if you searched Google, you would see. That's what's called a discovery ad on the YouTube platform.
Does it say that it's an ad?
It does.
Oh, wow. I haven't even noticed that. Okay. Wow. Okay. That is super cool. I had no idea. And so do you also focus on SEOs, things like that? Is that also part of your wheelhouse?
So the cool thing about that whole keyword research too, right? Not just for the ad, you can take that to the bank for everything you do in your marketing, for your SEO, for your website, for your email communications. Because again, psychologically, you've done the research to know what your customers are searching for. So why would you not use that data, not only in SEO, but in everything you do for your marketing messaging? Because that's what's going to resonate for them.
Yeah, no brainer, right? Okay. Wow, that was amazing. Okay. Well, now, Benjamin, we're going to ask one last question. I'm sure you're busy, but I always like to ask this question because it's important to remember why we do what we do. So, Benjamin, what are you grateful for?
I'm just grateful for this life, man. I'm grateful to be alive, to be healthy, and to have friends and family in my life. That's what I'm grateful for.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and roll out the red carpet, Benjamin. Let people know where they can learn more about you, where to contact you, and what you're working on.
Yeah, so feel free to contact me on our website. The name of my company again is Global Social Media Marketing. You can contact us on our website at globalsocialmediamarketing.com. Feel free to find me on social media. I'm obviously pretty easily found as Benjamin Kepner across every platform, so I do have good, consistent branding there. And, I really am working a lot on YouTube. If we haven't talked about YouTube enough in this episode, I released an ebook. It's called How to Become a YouTuber, a channel growth guide, and it is on Amazon. In case you need a last minute Christmas present, you can give that maybe to the next future YouTube star and told them that you learned some stuff from Benjamin.
Awesome, Benjamin. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.